Well, welcome back to Realman Speaks. This is part 2 of a series called Divorce, in which I'm offering some wisdom and some insights that you might find helpful. Thanks once again for listening to this podcast. This is part 2 of the divorce series. Now, in the last podcast, I covered a bit of ground which I'm going to summarize right now that I thought would be really helpful. So if you're broaching the subject, let's say you might not necessarily be there, but separation and divorce, in what my experience has been, doesn't necessarily mean that across the board everyone experiences the same things. However, at times I have heard of people's situations that were similar to mine. So I want to let you know I'm remarried, happily remarried, and this has taken some time where I get another shot at having a great relationship. So just want you to know that I'm not speaking from a place of misunderstanding or a place where I'm still troubled by the divorce. I'm out the other side, so to speak, and that's one of the main things that I covered in the last podcast. That one point that was a key point, in that life does get better. The other points made I'll summarise now, and that time. I mentioned that it's great advice to give someone, and it's certainly great advice to follow, that time heals all wounds. And so in that, we don't necessarily want to make major decisions in a highly emotive state, or a state where we haven't quite got control of our lives or control of our understanding of what is going on. So big decisions need to be delayed purposefully, even when there's a sense of urgency. You need to get as much advice as you can. Number 2, I talked about priorities. I mentioned that I'd made a mistake in defining the first priority through the divorce, about trying to settle the estate and settling our financial affairs. And I found that probably needed to have way more delay, because the first priority was children. 3, I also talked about having your support team. Now, my support team, I had a few friends that were advocates, and who it was almost like a season of having a close friendship with someone who would help me out, give me advice, just be a mate, and then they would slowly slip off, and then I'd sort of have another friend come in, and there was this constant stream of support, which is great, but that doesn't happen for everyone, and I didn't necessarily have support when I always needed it. However, I did say that I had a counsellor, and I ensured that I remained regular. So every week for 2 years, in fact beyond 2 years, I went to a counsellor. She was a great soundboard, and she was also a great advocate, because she could see that although I was experiencing the grief and the pain, that she was preparing me for the next step, and the next step is to come to wholeness. And just in saying that, a lot of guys in that, I guess, mid-40s, or when the midlife crisis kind of thing happens, are extremely shocked when their wives mention, hey, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. A lot of guys are shocked, and they don't know how to deal with it, but they've taken their relationship for granted, and there's every reason to feel, on the wife's part, to feel the sense of, well, what is this all about? And I want a new life. I'm not saying that's a justification to get a divorce. I'm just saying that there is a common theme where guys take the shock, they actually go into a deep depression, get extremely affected, and it's kind of ironic because It's almost as if they're blind to the fact that, if you want to use an analogy, the infection is so bad that they didn't even notice it. That you need to be prepared for the future. I mentioned my counsel was in that space of sowing positive thinking, sowing in affirmations, helping me to see that there's a life beyond this misery that I was experiencing called divorce. And I'll say this statement, as I said in the first, that divorce is really a way to destroy. Divorce is a way to destroy you. And so you have to have these anchors that will propel you forward into your new life. There is a season for grief. There is a season for mourning. In my case, I felt such rejection. I felt that it was my fault. And I beat myself up. If you are in this place where you're experiencing, and it might not necessarily be through divorce, you're experiencing a deep sense of grief. You're grieving. You're almost suicidal. You could be suicidal. You could be sensing that who you are as a person right now just won't provide any, I guess, sustenance. The who you are part of you, what you do, what your history, the whole thing. You just can't sense that you're going to live a great life. I want to tell you here and now, that kind of thinking is part of the nature of trying to destroy you and who you are. You're wonderful, you're incredible, and you're worth loving. You are accepted, and I say this as a Christian because in all of this, I had a loving God. I still do. A God who is my God, the living God, the Christian God, Jesus himself, who says, I call you by name. I know you. I've written my name. I've carved it into the palm of my hand. I knew you in the womb. I know you now. And based around that, I know that your life is worth living, that you yourself were made for greatness, to be the best you who you are. And that's the Realman edict, that you can live to be the true you, the real man within. This may also appeal to females as well, wives trying to understand guys, as we are trying to understand you. You might find some of what I'm saying applicable, but this is from a male mindset. There's no right and wrongs, however, this is an encouragement nonetheless. I haven't yet explained why I mentioned that you need to have these anchors for your future. So you've got to make some decisions. And one of the things that's really, really important is self-confession. So you're going through this horrible time, as I said. You've got to have an anchor. You've got to have a point of acknowledgement that you will adhere to, even if you don't feel that you can. And one of the things you can say to yourself is, I will get through this. You're experiencing these feelings, and they're horrible. Just like that smelly old bus that comes down the road. You can hear the bus, you can see the smoke billowing out of the exhaust pipe. The driver's grumpy, he's not a welcoming sort of a guy, and the bus pulls up, people get on board, pay their ticket fee, then they find a seat, and then the bus takes off, and there's this roar of noise, and he's gone. Feelings are just like this noisy bus. They come and they pass on. So you need to acknowledge that although you're in this place, these feelings, these horrible, horrible feelings will pass. Your self-confession has to help your mindset, because you've got to tell yourself some stuff. There were times where I was desperate to find a resolve. I had broken my own oath that I would never be divorced, that I'd never do this to my children. You have to kind of forgive yourself, because a marriage is between two people. And if one person's made their mind up, that's it. It can't be your fault. It's the fault of both parties. And yet here was I taking this on and saying, well, it's all my fault. And I broke my oath. So I was looking at suicide, I was looking at that possibility, how I was going to do it, what I was going to do, and I was just living off feelings. So I needed to tell myself, I am feeling, these horrible feelings, and yet they will pass. They will pass, and there will be a day where I will be grateful for the fact that I knuckled down, nailed in, and just felt it and moved on. I just want to say specifically to you guys, God's made us or designed us to endure hardship. You look at our forefathers and people that have gone through some hard times, wars, that real leaders, real men hang in there, because God's given us a special ability to actually forego hardship, to endure pain. And our Saviour's endured the cross, the absolute ultimate in torture. He endured the cross, and he did it and went through. So built into you is this ability to endure hardship, hard times, divorce, and even separation. So we're setting ourselves up for the future by ensuring that we have more or less girded ourselves up with good confessions. These feelings will pass. This divorce will not kill me. Although it's seeking to destroy me, it will not kill me. One of my friends at the time, he was great. I used to doubt, and I would say to him, I don't know why you want to be my friend, because I felt like this was my fault, and anybody that's experiencing divorce could be, likely a failed human being. You've failed your kids, you've failed your wife, you're a failure. Why would you want to be my mate? And he just simply barked back and he said, look, listen, mate, I don't have shit friends. So please be encouraged. Be encouraged. You're a worthwhile person. You're a decent person. And whatever's happening right now, whether right or wrong, or whether you've started it, and somebody, your wife, your partner's taking it further, you're going to get through this. One of the other great things he said is, you need to act honourably. And I fortunately heeded his advice. Acting honourably means in every step you're not going to act without reproach. And that's difficult to do. As I said earlier in episode 1, suddenly now you're not dealing with the partner, your ex-wife, husband, who's going through with a divorce. You're not dealing with the same person. You're dealing with a person on a mission. Their mission is to ensure that they get the very best out of you. They are not there for you, they are there for themselves. So you need to understand that, and the crap does come down. Every person, their actions, what they are sowing, they will reap it, but it doesn't necessarily happen straight away. Cause and effect happens, yes, you might call it karma, you might call it universal law. There is sowing and reaping. So you need to act honourably, you need to act above reproach. Your comebacks are going to have to be tempered. You cannot be hateful. You cannot get back with yelling and screaming and accusing. Yes, you'll want to look for retribution. You'll want to have vengeance, and you'll really, really must take hold of that, because at the end of the day, the season blows over. You're going to be so proud of yourself that you held on to something good. And that's a strong tower. That's the strong tower where you're saying, I'm going to have integrity. Okay, so you may have caused the divorce. You may be the guy who slept around. But see, note this also, that no one has the right to judge. There may be reasons why you slept around. There might be reasons why you've been the partner that hasn't been great to live with. There are a number of reasons. And unfortunately, if people have decided, no, I don't want to be with you anymore, I'm out of this, that doesn't mean to say that they themselves are not flawed or perfect. We're not, all of us, perfect. And if they couldn't find reason to forgive you, if they still want to judge and accuse, then frankly, maybe you need to be away from those sorts of toxic people in their toxic situations. Accusation, accusing, judging. You know, love's a powerful thing. And people need to understand that love itself was designed in a way so that we could all put our guards down, regardless of what we've done, and move on. Now, I'm not advocating violence, I'm not advocating murder, I'm not advocating incest, I'm not advocating unlawful acts that absolutely do hurt people. And if you're in that place and you've done that, well, I hope that you've paid a price for that. You've sought to repair matters, then don't stay condemned. Don't even live under condemnation. Yeah, you can't roll around being Mr. High and Mighty and, you know, well, I've done all these things and it's her fault that she hasn't forgiven me. You just carry on and try and keep your integrity. Did I keep my integrity? Did I? A lot of the time, I'd say 80-90% of the time I did, and there were times where I was yelling and I was angry. But in all my dealings, I acted as honourably as I could. Great advice. What would be the outcome of you going and finding out that your wife had slept around or had ideas that she was going to, you know, she had a boyfriend or she was going to see someone? Would it be cool for you to go and find that guy and beat the crap out of him? No, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Just the mere fact that you know what she's up to, that's all you need to know. Because in this situation, you're going to be the guy who's going to have to look after you. So don't go out crusading. Don't go out trying to fix it by proving a point or by attempting to actually justify why you're the good guy. Pull back and look for your support team. I mentioned in episode 1, your support team is going to be your bunch of friends who've got your back. And as I said, don't wear them out, but know that they're there and they will help you. If you've got no friends, there are support services, and I tell you, there are great support services in your city, on the phone or whoever. They will help you, and they will lead you into areas where you will be able to make friends, be able to go to support groups, and be able to read the right books, and be able to find something that you need to anchor you through this time.